Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Hello out there in Radio Land. This is Hank Hill, Assistant Manager, Strickland Propane. Come on down to Strickland where you can get a great deal on the new Char King 320 propane grill. We have other propane grills and propane accessories for your grilling needs. So come on down. Mention this ad for an extra 5% off of your next propane tank fill-up. That's Strickland Propane, Harlan, Texas. Have a great day.
Bwaaa! Bwaaa trucks fight all through the night, deep in the heart of Texas. The trailer park is nice and dark, deep in the heart of Texas. That drinks his brew and he spits his chew, deep in the heart of Texas. The TV blares but no one cares, deep in the heart of Texas. Here we go!
Hey there, welcome to Bwaaa.
Bwaaa.
A King of the Hill Rewatch podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Rusty.
Rusty, Megalomart blew up.
Yeah, that was season 2.
It blew up big.
The ending of season 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely exploded.
Now we have moved on. We're in season 3.
Season 3?
Holy crap. Episode 1, Death of a Propane Salesman.
Yeah. That's where we're at, actually.
This one's rough.
Yeah, this is a darker episode.
Yeah.
Might be one of the more darker episodes.
Yeah, it
period.
kind of is. We watch
it's all
Hank,
about death.
We watch Hank crumble, and it is all about death.
What is that Death of a Salesman reference?
Death of a Salesman, famous play.
Arthur Miller, right?
I believe it's Arthur Miller, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
Arthur Miller play.
Yeah. Super dark play about a guy coming to terms with his life and death and all that in his existence. So that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So for the first time ever, we get a previously on King of the Hill. All right, for the first time ever, we get Bobby announcing previously on King of the Hill.
Previous on King of the Hill.
And we see Chuck Mangione on the TV, or we don't see him, but we hear him talking about Megalomart now having propane. Hank and Peggy are watching the TV. Hank is he's very taken back by the fact that Megalomart has propane. And I got to tell you, you're going to hear some sounds during this episode. That is the fruit pie sounds.
Yeah, well, I was a little late to recording today, so generally the rule of thumb is if you're going to be late somewhere, bring snacks.
Bring a snack.
Because you can't be mad at somebody that's giving you a hot fruit pie. Like, I saw the look on our producer's face, Mason here, and
heck yeah,
he just looked furious, like he was about to rip doors off hinges. But then he saw the fruit pie, and he was like, "All was good," So
he just completely changed.
Yeah, I mean, he just went back to being a big softy again.
Look how docile he is now.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Once you feed a man a fruit pie, there's not much else you can be mad at.
Yeah, so we got the fruit pies, aka Bobby.
Yeah, shout out to Bobby on the fruit pie, and also Whataburger fruit pies.
What?
So it's a Whataburger fried apple pie.
Yeah, it's fried.
It's good.
We talked about that. McDonald's with these stupid baked pies.
Baked pies. Nobody
wants those. We see Buck telling Hank he's got to let him go. We see Hank, coming to grips with he's being fired. Then we have Buckley telling Luann, you don't have to take the test now. I gave the job to somebody else. Hank turns around. Then we see Chuck Mangione, who is prominent in this episode.
Yeah, he definitely has a few pop-up spots that
He really does.
You don't really see much of.
This is
him
when
generally.
Yeah, this is when we start featuring Chuck as like a character in the show.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
not just the dude playing the flugelhorn on TV. He's not a commercial anymore. He's an actual tangible figure.
It's him walking out onto the stage, and he says, "How you doing, Arlen? Are you ready to soft rock?" And then we see Luann breaking up with Buckley. Then Hank sniffing the air because he knows that sound and that smell of the propane leaking. Then Peggy, Hank, and then Bill, Chuck, and then Buckley and Luann are in there, and then we start the episode.
Yep,
So
that's where it begins.
everything blew up. We don't know who's dead, who's alive.
I like the recap.
Yeah.
I like that they did the you know.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, it's the first season-to-season episode. I don't think it's the last one. I think they have a few
No,
that are
there's a few.
cliffhangers.
Yeah, coming.
But I think it's real cool that they did that. So when this runs in syndication, it generally runs. They'll run the hour.
Oh, really?
The
All
hour
it
of King of the
together?
Hill, because if they have 2 spots for King of the Hill, whenever they run those episodes, they just run them concurrently. They run right next to each other.
So we transition into the first scene, and this is there's a playground in Arlen, and they've got, and I don't know if you remember these, but they've got those big rockets that you crawl up into. Like it's a jungle gym type thing, but it's a rocket, and you crawl up into it, and you get on the top perch, and that's where we find Bobby and Connie.
That's where they're at. I've never seen that before, but yeah. I mean, if you say
they
so.
can kind of see. They can kind of see the landscape
Yeah.
of Arlen. They can see the horizon.
It's kind of like the old Simba, you know.
Yeah,
Everywhere the light touches is Arlen.
everywhere the propane goes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they're up there talking, and we as the audience can see the smoke coming up from Mart in the back. They have yet to see this. Bobby says, "We must be getting old, Connie." And Connie says, "We're 12, Bobby. We are old. We've got to figure out what we're going to do with our lives."
Yeah.
Bobby says he's going to go to college and study comic tree. And then Connie, she comes back with, she can't decide whether to be a concert violinist or to lead the fight against the overuse of antibiotics, which is...
I thought it said country violinist.
No, she's going to be a concert violinist.
Oh.
Yeah.
I misheard what she said when I was watching that.
And Bobby says that she should be a violinist. That way she could be the opening act for him, and they could travel the world together.
And then here comes
Dooley.
Stuart Dooley.
Dooley pops his head up and says,
Your dad got blowed up.
"Your dad got blown up."
Yeah.
And then we get a gasp from Bobby because they finally see the smoke. We now transition to the blown up Mart, and I mean, it is gone.
It's gone. And then there's like this death wail
Yeah.
from Peggy.
Peggy is running all over the place. "Hank, please, someone help me. Hank, my husband is in there. He had to take this job because nobody else would hire him," which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
The EMT says, "We're doing everything we can, Miss Mangione." And then another one of the EMTs or the firemen says, "I got 2. Peggy sees 2 people come out in blankets, and we see that it's Hank and Luann. Peggy responds with, "Oh, Hank, you're alive." He says, "I'm all right, Peggy." He tells the fireman that there's 2 more inside.
Yeah.
Peggy's like, "Oh, thank God you're okay. I was so worried." Oh, and Luann. And then the blanket falls off Luann's hair, and her hair is gray to black.
Ashen.
And it's all gone, right? And Peggy is like, "Oh, my Lord." And we get the first of 2 reactions from Hank, which is "Bwaaa," whenever he sees her hair. Luann says, "Oh, my hair feels weird," and she tries to comb it. She's obviously in a state of shock,
Yeah, she's shocked.
but her hair...
I mean, she was just inside of a whole entire department store that completely was just annihilated.
Absolutely. But all of her hair falls off. We see it hit the ground. She finally sees the shadow of herself as a bald woman, and she goes, "Oh, my God, I'm bald."
She wasn't a fan of it. No, not at all. She didn't really like
No.
that.
No. And then they bring out Chuck, and he says, "I don't feel so good," which is a reference to his song, "Feels So Good."
Yeah. I thought that was funny.
Oh, it's
I like that
fantastic.
little
Yeah.
tongue-in-cheek thing there.
Then we see the back of a fire engine. We've got Hank and Peggy and Luann sitting there, kind of in the blankets, waiting. You know, after a major catastrophe or whatever, you see people sitting.
A
in the
really
back
bad
of a fire
catastrophe,
engine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the
Dale is just there.
the
kicking
foil
debris.
blankets.
Yeah.
You usually see them with the foil
Yeah.
blankets.
Yeah, like those moon blankets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never understood why movies did that when people were in like the movies that are like based in L.A.
Uh-huh.
and then they pull them out of a fire and then they put them in those blankets because those blankets are really just thermal blankets meant for like if you're on the side of the road in a car wreck and it's in a cold place.
Yeah.
Those are really good for like trapping heat.
My pie
So I
leaked
better-
all over my face.
Oh.
I went to take a bite of my pie and it went everywhere.
Yeah, guys, we're getting rated M for mature over
It
here.
was just
Yeah.
warm pie liquid came out of my mouth. Yuck.
Mike Pie Face.
I got pie faced. Yeah, by myself. So sorry, I'm chewing my pie.
No, it's a good pie. I really am tempted to go here when I leave again and go buy 3 pies just for myself.
More pies.
No, they're really exceptionally good. That's a really good Whataburger. The
They're very
Whataburger
good
on my
pies.
side of town is trash.
Yeah.
Like they are. Whenever you get them, you could tell they're darker because the grease is bad. So they actually look they look way dark. Like how these are like light and fluffy
These are lovely
and crispy. They're like,
Yeah.
like they don't have on my side of town. They're hard, and when you bite them, all you can taste is just dirty grease.
You hear that?
So I don't buy dirty grease.
That's me rubbing pie into my beard.
Pie beard.
Yeah, I got pie beard. Okay. So the one thing I need to go back
Yeah.
and take care of is no bell, no yell.
No bell, no yell.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, before my sister gets
At the beginning,
furious with
yeah.
this.
So they're sitting on the back of the fire engine, and Hank says, "What about Buckley? Did you find him?" He's asking kind of the fire people, and says, "I'm sorry, sir, but so far it appears that there were no survivors." And then Luann's like, "Oh my God, I'm bald." You think she's reacting to Buckley, but she's not. Now we're at a hospital waiting area, and we've got Bobby, and this is a weird scene to me because we got Bobby and Peggy sitting in the hospital waiting room, and Bobby's asking what's taking him so long. When does he get to see his dad? Peggy says,
Yeah.
Your father and Luann will be out soon, honey. And then she looks at Bobby and says, "Bobby, that's not a mint," and takes a piece of chalk out of his mouth.
Yeah,
and puts
Bobby
it on
just-
the chalkboard behind him. It's like Bobby's Kirby or something, just sucking up everything around him.
Yeah. Oh, a video game reference.
Yeah,
from
how
Mike.
about that, huh? Yeah, good stuff,
Whoa.
yeah. I've been studying. And so Hank comes out.
He's played through all of Kirby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's working his way. He's
You know
working.
me. I'm Kirby head.
Yeah.
Hank comes out of the emergency room. He's like, "All right, let's go home." Bobby runs up, hugs him, says, "Dad, you're all right." Peggy asks if there's any permanent damage. Hank says, "No damage, no scratches, no dents, no dings." Bobby, what do you say we go hit the batting cages? Just like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, he just wants to go swing for the fences,
Wow.
which is, that's a sign of trauma. I think he's a little traumatized. I
So-
don't think he's in his right state.
Oh,
of
Lord,
mind.
no, he's not. Bobby just is like, "Okay, great," because he's
He don't
always
care.
up for whatever.
Bobby's up for whatever,
Yeah.
always. Especially if I said, "Hey, a Whataburger fruit pie."
Oh, absolutely.
I think he would eat like 5.
Peggy, he would eat as many as you got.
You think that he would really eat himself to the point where he puked though? You think
Oh, yeah.
Bobby Hill would like? You don't think he has a cutoff?
No,
You don't think You don't think
No.
so? I think he does.
I think Bobby is.
I don't
just an
think he has a
endless
cutoff
pit.
when it comes to deli meat though.
I think he's an endless pit.
He
But
likes
we do learn that about the deli meat later.
salami. Yeah.
He loves his salami. That boy loves some salami. Sorry, I'm still chewing a pie. So, Peggy is a little concerned. She says, "Hank, slow down. You almost died today." Hank says, "Well, that's a good thing about death. You either die or you don't."
Yeah.
I didn't, so let's go hit some balls. Peggy says, "Hank, you sure you're okay?"
You good over there, Mike?
Then comes, yeah, I just got
You need
pie.
a glass of milk.
I got pie in my teeth.
I think that would be a good. I think that would go good with a glass of milk.
Oh, yeah, big glass of milk. Cow milk.
Big old glass of cow milk.
Big old glass of cow milk.
You know what the best cow milk in town is?
Hmm.
The Mill King Dairy out in McGregor or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh man, amazing milk.
just right out of the teat.
Right out of the teat. You can get raw. No, you can actually get the raw milk from
Can
there.
you really?
Yeah, you can get raw milk.
Isn't that
Raw
supposed
milk's
to-
really good. I think it's
Isn't it supposed to
better.
be bad for you?
I don't know. I think milk pumped full of hormones is probably worse.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I like the taste of hormones. Out comes Luann.
Until you start growing tits.
Out comes Teats. Thank you very much.
Teats. Sorry, teats.
Out comes Luann. Peggy says, she's prepping everybody. She says, "Now Luann's going to look different, maybe even hypnotically grotesque, but do not stare." And as soon as Luann comes out, everybody stares at him, including Peggy.
Everybody. is
Including
staring.
Peggy. Bobby has to look away. He's so repulsed. And he says, I'm real sorry about Buckley, Luann, and your hair. And Peggy's like, oh, Bobby, stop. You know, and Luann, honey, it'll be fine. We'll just cover it up with makeup, and it'll be fine. Here comes Luann with her pity party, which I'm not a big fan of this version of Luann.
I'm not a big fan of this version either. She's a little...
She's
She's
kind of a pain in the butt.
She's a little,
She says, no, Aunt Peggy, I'm not going to use hair or makeups anymore. Makeups. I don't really understand why that's plural. I learned something from that explosion. Beauty doesn't last forever. It can be blown off your head, which is a wonderful way to live.
Yeah.
We transitioned into the alleyway. All four guys standing there just like normal.
I think the show's, I mean, that's another dark part of it. It's not just dark for Hank. It's just, it's dark. The whole, everybody involved in this show has to deal with.
Well, even the guys later on,
darkness.
they get super dark about it.
Oh yeah, when they're all standing at the fence. As
so
usual.
Bill is dragging in a trash can, and he says, "Oh, Hank, you poor thing, you shouldn't be standing after your accident." Hank's just like, "I'm fine. It's no big deal. Buildings explode. That's what they do." And that is not what buildings do. But
that's not what buildings do.
He says, "Can we please talk about something else?" Bill, you're in flavor of a flat tax. You haven't said a word about it. You're in flavor.
Of a
I'm just
fat
thinking
tax.
about pies. You know?
Yeah.
You're in flavor of a fat tax. He says, "You hadn't said a word about it." Dale pops up and says, "Did you happen to see Buckley or any part of attempting to flee the scene of the, quote, accident?"
Dale, the boy is no more. So matter of fact.
He says all they found of him was his name tag. Dale pops up and says, "Well, that's all they wanted you to find. It's a classic cover-up. That boy's no deader than Mother Teresa." And then we get...
which I don't get. I don't get that at all. Was Mother Teresa alive at this point?
She was dead, I believe, at this point.
I wonder what year she died.
So we get Buck Strickland. He comes up in his Cadillac car, honking because anybody important drives a Cadillac car. He says, "Hank, old girl, Strickland's back in business. Get ready to pump some propane tomorrow." Hank says, "All right, sir, I might be a little late. I don't know if I gave Mart my notice." He says, "Why, I think you gave your notice, Nitro." And he just laughs about it. He thinks it's funny.
He thinks, well, because he's being assumptuous. He's kind of like, "Hey, Hank, rib, I know you did it. Come on, tell me you did it, because I know you did it."
Hank says, "I had nothing to do with that explosion, which hasn't affected me in any way." Strickland drives off, and then we see Hank pour a beer in a glass. And all of the guys are just like, "Oh, my God, something's wrong with Hank because he's pouring his beer in a glass."
Well, see, I have a story for that. So my dad, all my life, my entire life, always has drank his beer out of a cup, glass, mostly a glass.
Yeah.
And
I always drink mine out of a glass.
Yeah, and
I don't like cans.
Well, that's this is his scientific explanation for it, because I asked him when I was an adult, and I drank beer out of a can by that point, and I drank beer out of a bottle, and I drank, at that point I tried it, out of a shoe, whatever.
Sure,
I
right,
drank it out of just about everything you could drink it out of before I asked him this question. And I was like, "Well, what is the reasoning? Like, why?" And he said, "Well, the porosity of aluminum is different than the porosity of glass.
Mm-hmm.
One is infinitely smooth, whereas the other has slight porosity, and you get a bit of the flavor of the can."
Oh, you definitely
is what
do.
it is.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like I was like, well, if that porosity is there and that flavor is there, isn't the flavor in the beer regardless of where you're drinking it out of? And he said, no. He said, once I poured in that glass, he's like, there's no friction.
Yeah.
And he said, it's just different. I was like, well, all right.
I have a much simpler reason why I don't drink things out of a can, and that's because I've seen rats run across the top of them and pee on the can.
Well, he's not seen that, but he did tell me he had a bad experience one time where he did get a beer that had something in it from the manufacturer, like some sludge or something in it.
Gross.
And that's why that was his story. But that was he gave me a scientific, but there's an actual story. The story
I like
is
the scientific part
the
of it.
sludge.
I think that's great.
Yeah, he got a bad batch of beer from
that's the
a
thing.
company back in the day
At a certain
when he was
point,
like 18.
At a certain point, you got to pour it out just so you can see.
Well, he was real young when it happened. It was like in the beginning of his beer drinking experiences. So it changed. It was like, well, maybe I'll just do this instead. He did get a free case of beer though.
Well, there you go.
From the company for that. You got a coupon for beer.
You ever seen the movie Strange Brew?
No, I haven't.
So it's Bob and Doug McKenzie, who used to be on SCTV. You probably don't understand that reference either. But
SCTV, that's the Canadian troupe, right?
yeah, it's Second City Television.
Yeah,
that's what
Second
it is.
City.
But
It's out of Toronto, right?
yeah, they would do.
They have one in Chicago too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the Second City part.
The Second City part.
But the big joke was they would shove a mouse into one of the beer bottles and then take it to the beer place, and they would give them free beer. So,
oh wow, okay.
yeah. We transition into the kitchen. Bobby is eating what looks to be an entire box of cereal. The phone rings and Peggy says, "Hello, Peggy here. Hank, it's Mr. Strickland." We see Hank across the room in the kitchen, and he's working on the toaster feverishly. Like he's unscrewing all of it. He's dumping stuff out. Says, "Busy, take a message." She says, "Can he call you back?" Oh, I see. She hangs up the phone and she says, "Hank, why didn't you not tell me that Mr. Strickland offered you your job back?"
Yeah.
He says, "Well, it just happened yesterday." And this is when you know, I mean, Hank is
There's
got to
be something wrong. Yeah, no, because for Hank to not go running back to work like in a full sprint, there was something definitely wrong.
Peggy says, "Honey, he's got customers lined out the door." And Hank says, "Peggy, I am in the middle of decrumbing the toaster." And, of course, Bobby pops up and says, "Save the crumbs."
Save the crumbs.
So I guess Bobby just eats a handful of crumbs.
Well, I'm guessing what Bobby likes to do with the crumbs is like a parfait kind of thing. So he gets like,
puts
maybe
them on something or what?
Well, I would call it yogurt, like a yogurt parfait, but I don't see Bobby eating a yogurt parfait.
No.
I see it being more like a chocolate pudding
Sure.
with strawberry sauce and then, garnished with some breadcrumbs from the toaster.
Right, you just take the breadcrumbs from the toaster. You ever eat the breadcrumbs out of the toaster?
I've never eaten breadcrumbs out of a toaster, but I have eaten toasted breadcrumbs. But not out of a toaster.
I think once they're in the toaster and you have to dump them out, it's gross.
Well,
There's a lot of stuff that's happened to them.
Only if it's done every single time and it's cleaned every single time. If you just throw your toast in there, toast, and you've got an accumulation of
2 years of breadcrumbs.
Well, if you've got 2 years of breadcrumbs, that you got way bigger issues than breadcrumbs in the toaster.
I don't know that I've ever cleaned my toaster out. Am I supposed to?
I probably would, because bread is not something that just keeps forever.
Yeah, I understand that.
Bread is a shelf
but
life.
You've kind of burnt it, right? I mean, so isn't it just carbon
ash,
at
guess.
that point?
I guess it's just I guess it wouldn't really matter. No, not per se. I don't know. I don't even have a toaster. My toaster got used when I ran out of a lighter to light joints. I use a toaster now.
You know what? I don't have a toaster anymore.
You don't have a toaster?
We have an air fryer. We don't have a toaster.
So you air fry your bread now.
So we air fry our bread.
Yeah,
which I don't do.
I've
My
never
wife
air fried
does.
bread.
My wife air fries the bread. I like putting it in the grilling part of the oven. What do you call that?
The grilling part of the oven. The broiler.
Broiler. I like to put it in the broiler, but I always burn my toast.
I think it's a broiler. Yeah.
Yeah, it always gets burnt. So Hank is working on that toaster. Bobby wants to save the breadcrumbs. We now go into Lou Ann's room. She's fiddling with a camera. Looks to be a pretty old camera because it's a film camera. It's not a digital camera. Peggy says, "Lou Ann, honey, look, it's two of your old friends, the Manger Babies," and she's got the jackass and the penguin.
Yeah.
Lou Ann says, she just kind of snorts and says, "Sock puppets are for babies. In the real world, beauty fades and penguins die a cold, horrible death."
Yeah, that's terrible. Like she just she's doing this all this whole I don't know macabre.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Do you remember Sinead O'Connor? I
remember who Sinead O'Connor is.
Yeah.
I know who she is, but I don't know. I know she was an Irish singer, right?
I actually wrote that down before they bring it up later. I was like, oh, she looks like Sinead O'Connor.
Well, the only Irish singer that I listened to, I guess the Irish band, if you want. Well, I call it a singer because the lead singer was the only one that was singing. But the Cranberries.
Yeah.
Zombies. Yeah. I love that song.
So she is all upset. She says, in the real world, penguins die a cold, horrible death. Peggy's like, "So you're not going to go back to beauty school then?" She says, "I'm tired of making the world look pretty. I want to show the world for what it is with photojournalism."
Photojournalism.
Peggy says,
and her idea of photojournalism is...
Well, that's it, yeah. She shows these pictures to Peggy, and she says, "Look at these pictures of hungry children." And Peggy looks at them, and she goes, "Why is this CNN? Oh, this is just a picture of the TV, Lou Ann. Luann says, "Oh, it's nice to be smart, Aunt Peggy, smart and well fed. I don't know why all of a sudden she's worried about hungry children. Where did this come from?"
I don't know what her obsession with the and the funny thing is she's taking pictures of TV for one.
Sure.
She's taking pictures of CNN,
Yeah.
thinking that she's out there making a difference.
It was kids running in an alley. Like they looked a little worried, but I don't know that they were hungry.
Yeah, I don't know if they were hungry either, unless they were running down the alley for a loaf of bread. But I don't know where this obsession comes from. She's just really, I don't know, she's always just doing something that's a little odd.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially later at the funeral. But we'll get to that. We are now at the blown-up Megalomart, and a man from the Texas RRC we see on the back of his windbreaker. He's going.
Where's the RRC?
He's going through the rubble. So the RRC is the Texas Railroad Commission.
Okay.
So the Railroad Commission is over those sorts of things, propane explosions and stuff like that. I guess. I don't know. I said that with confidence, like I knew, but I don't know that that's the truth. So Dale, for some reason, is at the explosion site. This man is kind of going through the rubble.
Yeah, they're going through the rubble.
He says, "Find the body yet, Quincy?" You know Quincy?
Quincy Jones?
Old TV TV detective Quincy. That's what it is.
Who was it? Who played him?
I don't remember. It was somebody
Peter
famous.
Frampton.
Peter Frampton,
No,
sure.
I don't know. I'm just naming people from the air. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just saying names at this point.
He had that little mouth thing in the whole time. He was like, "I see your body." It's great. The guy says, "We have some remains that we're analyzing. You needn't concern yourself." Dale, of course, who likes to stick himself into these sorts of situations, he says, "Oh, I needn't, shouldn't I? And maybe I should not know that all Mart employees have a $5,000 insurance policy." The guy says, "That's nonsense. This is a very straightforward investigation." He says, "That's what they want you to think." The guy says, "Sir, we are they."
We are they.
Dale's like,
"Whoa!"
And he just
runs off.
Yeah. Texas Railroad Commission. So we transition to the Hill's backyard. Hank is standing over a plate of T-bones, and he's just like poking at them with the fork.
Yeah, this is a weird
fork.
scene. I don't know. This is really weird.
Peggy from the inside, she says, "Hank, fries are up. Honey, how are the steaks coming?" He says, "Still tenderizing. I don't want to rush them." She comes out and she takes a look at him. She says, "You've been pounding the Bwaaa, which I don't Bwaaa out of that beef since noon. Throw it on the grill. Let's go."
Well, I'm trying to what would that even mean?
Bwaaa? I guess bejesus.
The bejesus, the Bwaaa.
The Bwaaa? The Bwaaa?
I guess maybe bejesus is
it's bejesus, but I think she's trying to say it. I don't know.
I don't know. Bwaaa. Oh, the bejesus, the Bwaaa.
The Bwaaa.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
Oh, Peggy, man, you're a trash
Just
human
came
being.
together.
You know, like I really like when I was reading all like the fan stuff and all that. You know, I take it with a grain of salt. I try to approach it without a bias. Yeah. But the more we watch Peggy, like I really do kind of agree with people that she might be a bad person.
She's kind of a bad person. Yeah. So she tells him just throw him on the grill, and this is when we get a kind of a flashback from Hank, kind of a PTSD moment. You know,
an ABCD moment.
He takes a look at the grill. He seems to hear it hissing. He's all sweaty, like his pits are all stained and everything. You never see Hank this way.
No, Hank is supremely stressed.
Yeah, you hear the severely ominous music, you know, dun, 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 and he sees the grill explode in front of him, and then it comes through, and it's just the grill sitting there. And so very, very unlike Hank. I don't care what has happened before. He takes the steaks and just pitches them over the fence.
Over the fence.
That
Good
is
meat.
The weirdest thing.
And Hank doesn't buy. Hank's not going to go and buy.
He's not buying crappy meat.
A cheap, thin cut.
No.
If you look at those steaks,
these are T-bones.
When they're flying through the air, if there's somebody on the receiving end of that, it's gonna, you know.
Well,
it's like Uncle Rico with Napoleon Dynamite. He grabs the steak off Kip's plate and it's gonna take you out.
So they go over the fence and they land in the yard, and of course Dale is there for some reason. It can't be his yard because I believe when I think of it, I'm trying to picture where his house is in relation to Hank's. I guess it is next door. Yeah. So maybe it's Dale's backyard. They go and they land in the grass. Dale looks at him and goes, "Gobbets of meat from the sky. Gobbets of meat from the sky."
Gobbets, yeah.
And then he licks it, looks up, and says,
Doesn't taste like
"Doesn't
Buckley.
taste like Buckley." I don't know when he tasted Buckley. But, hey, that is a good time to take a commercial break, and we will do that, and we'll come right back.
This is Hank Hill again from Strickland Propane. Today I'm talking with someone you might know, Chuck Mangione. He wants to tell you about propane. Take it away, Chuck.
Thanks, Hank. You know, just because I don't work for the Mart anymore doesn't mean I don't love propane and propane accessories. You know, it's clean burning and efficient fuel for your grills and heating your home and anything else you might want. I love propane. It fuels so good.
Brought to you by the Texas Propane Association. Charlie Fortner, President.
All right, we are back, and we are now in the Hills kitchen, and
Yep.
they are obviously getting ready to go to the funeral.
Yep.
Peggy calls it a wake, but she is pulling the saran wrap real tight over a casserole she's made.
Yeah,
And
and
The thing I noticed about her is she's got the frilly sleeves and the big puffy shoulders and stuff on her dress.
yeah, for
I
sure.
guess that's dressed up for her.
I don't know if that's dressed up for her or not, but if that's dressed up for her, she needs to dress down.
She says, "Oh, Hank,
She's better pulling up in shorts.
Well, Hank's got on a like a dark gray suit. You know, they're obviously getting ready to go to the funeral. She says, "Oh, Hank, they need your help at Buckley's wake, manning the grill."
Oh,
He says, "What?
a grilling opportunity.
He
It's
says-
not an opportunity that Hank can turn down.
Yeah. He says, "Is it propane?" She says, "Of course it's propane, Hank. They're not Unitarians."
I don't get that joke, but
I don't know what a Unitarian is. I guess.
I'm not sure. I think it's a denomination of the.
Oh, I
Christian
know it's a
church.
denomination. Yeah.
It
I
would
get that.
be a.
But I don't know why Unitarians would not use propane.
I'm not
real
sure why they wouldn't use
why that's a
propane.
thing.
Maybe they live rustically. I'm not sure.
Maybe
Not rustily, but rustically.
rustily.
Yeah, rustily.
They live in a lot of rust.
Yeah.
Everything gets rusted. She says they're not Unitarians. He said, well, I wouldn't feel right. I barely knew Buckley. Wake grilling is something you do for a blood relative or a close friend. Now, maybe when Bill dies, maybe he'll do it then. She says, "Oh, honey, what a pretty outfit for a funeral." In comes Luann. She has this green one-piece dress on with a gray shirt underneath it, looking just like Sinead O'Connor. That's
yeah,
when I wrote
she looks
this
just
down.
like Sinead O'Connor. Yeah.
That's when I wrote this down.
Zombie.
Do you remember? You don't remember what Sinead O'Connor did?
Didn't she on I think it was
She did.
SNL or the Oscars? She tore
It
up
was
a picture of the
SNL.
Pope.
Yeah. Held up a picture of the Pope and said something like,
She was in the middle of a song. I know.
"Yeah."
The only
she said
activist
something
female
like
that I can remember.
occupation or whatever, and tore up a picture of the Pope.
The only female activist that I can remember doing something was Jane Fonda when she
Yeah.
pissed on the American flag in North Vietnam.
Sure.
That was crazy, though.
That is
just
crazy.
Just imagine that American
Hanoi
woman
Jane. Yeah.
got allowed into
I know. She talked her
North
way in.
Vietnam
Well,
and got
it's
to
like-
piss on the American flag and then got to come back and have a career.
Yeah, no kidding.
On top of that,
Yeah.
hey, the American dream, folks. The American dream.
Is that
Helps
what
being married to Ted Turner.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It does help being married to Ted Turner.
I
Good,
forgot.
Good
Hey,
point,
there you
Mason.
go.
That's great.
Pop culture genius
That's
here.
right. That's right. It's wonderful. You feed him a pie. He's
Yeah,
gonna
he's
talk.
got it. Yeah, he's
so-
been more talkative than he's been the whole time he's been here. I like it.
So in she comes, and she says, "Oh, honey, what a pretty outfit for a funeral." Of course, it's kind of a veiled insult. She says, "Now, before you go, you might want to open this." She hands her a box. She says, "Your friend from the Beauty Academy dropped it off." Luann opens up the box. She pulls out a little card and pulls out a wig that looks like a shaved Afghan dog. I mean, it looks terrible.
It
right?
looks like the merkin that we were talking about the other episode.
It's like they swept up all the hair and made a wig out of it. you
Yeah,
know? It's several different colors. But she reads the card. It says, "Sorry for your loss. You had beautiful hair." She goes, "They made me a wig." And then she reads the card and it says, "We made you a wig."
They made
And
me
then
a
she
wig.
responds with, "They made me a wig."
They made me a wig.
And she just hands it back to Peggy and says, "Throw it out." She walks out of the room, and Peggy says, well, you just go ahead and grieve any way you want. Red Book says losing a boyfriend is the fourth most painful loss, right between grandmother and penis.
Okay.
Red Book is telling you about losing your penis.
Losing your penis.
Luann says, I'm not grieving. I broke up with Buckley seconds before the explosion. I never looked back. That's why I still have my eyebrows, which is a great joke.
That is a
by the
great
way.
joke.
It's a
I
great
never
joke.
looked back.
So we're transitioning.
That's a perfect. That's great. I
We're
like that one.
transitioning to the graveside, but before that, Bobby puts the dumb wig on, and Hank gets mad at him and like yanks the wig off his head.
head.
Yeah,
The Merkin.
yeah, or yanks the,
You know,
the Birkin off Bobby's head.
I had to look up Merkins after
Yeah?
you talked about it just to see.
They're a real thing.
Apparently, there's a large supplier. There's an industrial supplier of commercial grade
Commercial grade
Merkins.
Merkins. Sure.
And they come with a body safe sticky adhesive, so you could
I would hope so.
stick them to yourselves
In that area.
They also have some really ones that are a little on the cheaper end that have a bikini style strap to where you could strap it around your waist and up your gooch and like tie it to where it's like it stays attached.
And then they have one that has the real curly red hair. It's the clown Merkin.
Yeah, and then
It
it's
honks whenever you.
yeah, it's they also have an orange Merkin for those that are in jail. It's like
Sure.
a jailhouse Merkin.
Sure,
it
jailhouse
says
Merkin.
property of whatever,
My favorite Elvis song, Jailhouse Merkin.
Jailhouse
Yeah,
Merkin.
it's good stuff.
A jailhouse Merkin. Oh.
So we're now at the graveside of Buckley's funeral, and Dale says something's not right. A week's salary says that box is empty. He's talking to Boomhauer.
Oh
standing
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
This
I
is-
like the scene though. See, this is Wes Archer. All this is Wes Archer. I went back and I watched the some of the commentary stuff on from the first season.
Yeah.
And they only have 2 episodes. It's the first 2 episodes is all they have commentary for.
Right.
But they gave away so much cool stuff. So a lot of these really cinematic scenes, because this is one of those ones I consider kind of cinematic. How they're
Yeah.
standing next to
This
each
whole
other.
episode
It,
is
it
pretty
looks like.
cinematic.
It looks like almost like a mafia scene at the funeral kind
It
of thing
does.
is how
Yeah.
it looks.
No,
but
you're right.
that's all Wes Archer's animation direction because he did the direction for all this.
So Dale says that he thinks the box is empty, and then he goes over there, opens the damn casket,
And it's
turns
probably like a bowl of soup.
He turns completely white and pukes
Yeah.
in the coffin, which is it's insane.
But nobody sees him, and he just shuts it and walks
just
off.
shuts it,
And he doesn't like
yeah.
walk off. He starts like this odd like sprint away,
Yeah.
like this like hunched over sprint thing.
So now we see the crowd that's sitting there, and Buck leans over and he's talking to Hank, and he says, "Didn't think I'd see you here. Guilty conscience, huh?"
Guilty conscience.
Hank says, "Why would I have a guilty conscience? I did not blow up the Megalomart." And he says, "Oh, good. I'm glad you said that, Hank.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a wire for an unrelated matter. So when can I expect you back?" He shows him the wire.
Yeah, he
he's
shows
wearing.
him the wire. Yeah.
It's just nuts. What
I'm
is it?
wearing a
Is the
wire.
wire for the Railroad Commission?
Is the wire for the?
I
No, it's for an
imagine he was-
unrelated matter.
I assumed he was gonna use it to blackmail Hank.
I guess,
Just
man.
one thing to hold over him.
He just goes around and straps on wires, and
Or he's wrapped up in some other kind of.
that's kind of what I thought.
criminal matter. I
thought
think
maybe
he's
he
wrapped
was-
up in some criminal matter,
Yeah.
and he's got to wear a wire, for every situation that he's involved in at the moment. And they're just trying to catch somebody, and it might be something to do with some shady.
Well, he's a pretty nefarious guy. I mean,
he
that's
likes to
just the way
bet.
it is.
It's all the betting crap
Oh
that
yeah.
he does. All
Well,
that
the betting
shit.
and the ladies and the drinking and the everything.
Yeah, horn and drinking.
So
Yeah.
Hank says that he'll be back after an appropriate period of grieving, and he says Buckley was practically a son to me. And then he makes this face. I mean, the face looks.
Oh, the face is
terrible.
crazy. Another thing too. We're almost there. So hold on. I'll hold this next tidbit.
All right. So Chuck Mangione is right there by the coffin, and he pulls out his flugelhorn and starts playing taps, which then transitions
Goes into
feels so good.
Yeah.
Connie.
It's actually really good. I
Oh,
really
it's
like it. It's a
wonderful.
good sound. It's a good
Oh,
sound.
it's
Feels so
wonderful.
good by Chuck Mangione, folks. Get it on
Yeah.
Spotify.
This is depressing. You want to go play in the cemetery? Okay.
So Connie reaches up to Bobby. They're sitting at the graveside, and she says, "This is depressing. You want to go play in the cemetery?" Bobby's just like, "Okay."
You
And
never
then-
played in a cemetery as a
Well,
kid?
then they just wander off. I mean, That's okay for the kids to just run off and play in the cemetery.
Well, I don't know if it's okay during a funeral. I don't think it's appropriate for funeral activity, but you never played in one as a kid ever? Like a cemetery?
Not really, no.
Never ran through one?
No, not much.
They didn't have any near you?
I just don't like them.
Oh, you just didn't like
don't
it?
care.
Yeah.
Cemeteries are...
Well, my dad,
think they're a waste.
he worked for a monument company
Oh, yeah?
for a good, decade, or so growing up.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we would go to the cemeteries, depending on where he was at that day, like if he was in town or if he was somewhere close to, town.
Sure.
We would drive out and we would go have lunch with him in the cemeteries. And my little sister, she got to enjoy it more so than the rest of us because she was not in school at that time, and we were all in school, so we only got to enjoy it in the summer. And she got to go every day,
Right.
and that was what she would ask my mom. She would say, "Hey, can we go eat with the dead people today?" And they would go and they would sit in the cemetery and they would just sit there, and she would go and she would that was a reading exercise for her, was learning how to read people's names off a tombstone.
For some reason,
some morbid shit.
For some reason, I assume they're eating cold fried chicken.
Well, no, my mom. It was probably like cold rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
Sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah. She went all out.
She liked the rotisserie chicken, huh?
Yeah, rotisserie chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
And my dad was is still real big on onions.
Oh.
Like raw onion.
Yeah. Does he eat an onion like an apple?
He can.
Yeah.
But he usually eats like half of an onion.
My grandfather used
with
to do
dinner.
that. Yeah.
Like a whole half an onion with every dinner, which is, he's 62 and
smells like onions.
Well, it smells like onions, but he's got really good. It's heart health and stuff like that. So
onions are good for your heart.
Apparently so. The doctor said
All
that
right.
his clean diet, is what has curbed all the drinking and smoking all the years.
So the onions are what's clearing it out.
That's what they said. They said that's a part of it. A part of a clean diet. He eats a lot of
all the crap attaches itself to the onion and just goes right out.
Yeah. Well, they eat fresh. It's all fresh. Him and my mom eat all fresh vegetables. They get them from like farmers markets and stuff like that if they can.
Sure.
And
green onions or big white onions?
No, big white onions. He eats like a whole half of an onion. With two slices of bread, half an onion, and that's on like a garnish for every meal he eats.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it's a sandwich.
Well, no, he does use. Well, that's the thing is he comes from an era of
it's partially
poverty.
round. Though.
Well, he comes from poverty. It's a poverty thing where you eat a couple pieces. No, not onion sandwich, but you eat a couple of pieces of bread with every meal to make up for not being able to have a full meal. Kind of thing.
I get that part. Yeah. My grandfather was big on beans and bread,
beans. My dad always even now he's not like
like pinto
down and out like he was growing
the
up.
cheap ones.
Always has beans, a pot of beans on.
Yeah,
with a ham hock.
Oh, with a ham hock. Oh, that's a treat.
Ham hock and a pot of beans.
That's a treat right there. Put the ham hock in the beans.
Well, they get the ham hock. They take they slice the ham off the hock and then they put the hock in.
Yeah.
The
You let it disintegrate in there basically, and you just pull the bone out. Yeah, it's very
good stuff.
So they're playing in the cemetery. We see the priest. He says, the passing of Buckley is a great loss and a sad occasion. Would anyone care to come up and say a few words about Buckley? Up comes a very angry Luann. She says, I guess y'all expect me to cry for Buckley, but I am not, because there are a lot more important things to cry about. And then she unveils a picture of Bobby in his tidy whities, grabbing a French fry off of the plate.
Screams about an Irish.
And she says, this is a picture of what a hungry Irish child looks like. Fight the occupation.
It's fun. This isn't funny.
But that's
actually.
what Sinead O'Connor said. Fight the occupation whenever she tore up that.
But I got a great bit of IRA life experience because I, of course, am from England. So,
of course,
when we were getting ready to move over here, it was 1996. The city that I lived in they had bombed a shopping center.
Oh, Lord.
In the city that we lived in, and it was within the time, like a few months before we were supposed to move over here, it all happened. But they went in and they planted...
in Ireland, you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about in England.
Oh, it was in England?
Yeah, it's called the Arndale Center that they blew up. Arndale.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. But they had the bombs rigged up around like the building in like vans or something like that. They had warned the police that there were bombs, and that if they didn't want anybody to get hurt, they would have to evacuate people. So they evacuated everybody before they were able to locate the bombs. The IRA is not going to wait for cops. They don't give a shit about that. They don't. They're at this point, they're done trying to hurt civilians. They're just trying to stir up the government. Is all they're trying to do.
Right.
Which at a point in time they didn't evacuate. You know, at a point in time, my mom remembers in the 70s when she would be at work and they would clear out the whole hotel that she was working at because they would have an IRA threat in the neighborhood or like in the vicinity of the hotel she was at. And that was in like the 70s and 80s. And she said that sometimes it was on like a weekly basis. You were doing that like once or twice a week, evacuating the whole area for IRA bombs. And
that's crazy.
And you wouldn't think that would be, you know, you're thinking, oh, it's a Western nation, you know what I mean? But it was really happening. And I remember the ruckus in the house after the explosion had happened. I remember my mom, oh my gosh, they're doing it again. They're starting this. They're starting this shit again. They're starting this shit again. But that was like the end of it.
There should be a ruckus if things are blowing up next to you.
Well, the thing is what everybody was really upset about, which, you know, they're upset because they're on the other side of it, of course. You know, the Irish have a great argument on their side, too. But the English were really upset about it all because all the ones that were doing the bombings and stuff, the Sinn Féin or whatever, they all elevated into government after that. They let all those dudes that were doing all those bombings and killings in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they all got elevated to politics instead, where they could, you know,
that's crazy,
kill and maim in a different way. No, it's really crazy because, you know, some of them were responsible for killing, you know, like innocent people, people that weren't in the military or anything. It was just like innocent civilians dying for it. You know, of course, Irish lost tons of innocent civilians too in the whole situation. It was a back and forth, you know. It was a war zone in the middle of cities, which isn't, you know, and not even like third world country kind of stuff. You're in the middle of, you know, what you would call a quote unquote civilized. Supposedly, I don't think anything is civilized anywhere, but it's supposedly civilized people. So
this is the funniest episode ever.
It is the funniest episode ever.
So the priest says, is there anyone else who'd like to say a few words about Buckley? Anybody at all? Name of the boy was Buckley. And then the weirdest thing, up comes Khan.
Yeah,
which
Khan.
He just comes out of nowhere. I don't think I even saw him sitting in the crowd. And then he just comes out and he says, at first I didn't much like Buckley, I admit, but then when I saw how much he pissed off my neighbor, Mr. Hank Hill, I decided to seek out this Buckley fellow and get to know him. I grew to love that boy. Now that he's gone, I feel a big hole in my life. I think we all do. Is a world without Buckley a world we want to live in? As a Buddhist, of course, I get comfort from a story. I don't have to tell you how much Buddhists sure like stories. He says, anyway, story began with a man being chased by a ferocious tiger, and then it kind of fades into this tapestry-looking story.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually kind of cool. He says it begins with a ferocious tiger. He's chasing a man. And the tiger chased the man to the edge of the cliff. The man falls off. Halfway down, he grabs onto a branch. He looks up and sees a hungry tiger. Now he looks down. He sees another hungry tiger waiting for him on the ground below. Not a good place to be. He says he knows for sure he's going to die. Then out of the corner of his eye, he sees a wild strawberry growing from the same branch. He plucks it. He eats it. And it was the sweetest tasting strawberry he ever had.
You know what the parable is, right?
As you're closer to death, things are sweeter or better.
Well,
you
it's it's deeper than that actually. It's all encompassing for life. The fact that death. This is gonna be a dark episode with some elements, guys.
Sure.
It might not be as funny as other episodes. I don't really think this episode. It had a couple of good jokes, but I don't think it was meant to be funny. I think it was meant to challenge stuff, and that's what this whole show is. And that's why I really have a struggle when people call this show when they try to politically like align things with this show or stuff like that, because if anybody ever watches this show and you watch it the way we're watching it, you would see that it's really not. It's extremely, you know, there's so many different nuances that you could argue for both sides of an argument, but everybody has to remember that the creators, if nothing else, the creators, a lot of the writers, a lot of the artists that made this, the liberal artists, it's a lot of liberalism, yeah, and a lot of people try to be, oh well, Hank Hill's conservative, this, that, or another, and the third kind of thing. Where I don't feel
think
it.
He is. No.
I don't feel it. I think he's a centrist. I don't think he goes left or right. I think that he goes with what makes sense.
He's a common sense guy.
And if right doesn't make sense and left does, left doesn't make sense,
all
and
he
right
ever
does,
really wants is common sense,
and that's it.
And he just doesn't enjoy it when people, you know, are turds.
So he
hates that
pretty much. So that it's the meaning of that death is inevitable for all of us. So it's better to just take the joy in life and then focus on things you can't change.
So even this, Hank is sitting in the crowd, and he looks over at Dale and he says, "Can you believe this guy? He tells a joke at a funeral." Dale says, "Highly inappropriate," and then just lights up a cigarette.
Thought it
right
was
in
a
the middle.
joke. That was a joke, right? That was a good joke there, because it wasn't a joke. It was a parable that he was trying to tell everybody.
And then Bill's sitting behind him, and he's going, "Hey, yeah, that was funny." He just Bill just completely misses it. Yeah,
Bill's a twerp.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
We're back at the Hill House, and Peggy says, "I just don't know how one little boy can get so dirty in a cemetery." And the funny thing is, like, you look down the hall, you see the mud feet all over the place. His jacket that he was wearing, Bobby, that is, just full of mud. She says, "Bobby, are you in the bath yet?" He says, "There's no hot water." She says, "Oh, the heater must have gone out again." Now, I want to make a point.
Okay.
She says heater.
The heater.
She does not say a hot water heater.
The hot water heater. She just said the heater.
She doesn't say water heater. She just says heater. Too many people in this world, and this is my Hank Hill moment, too many people in this world call it a hot water heater. If you already got hot water, why are you heating it?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It is not a hot water heater, guys.
It is not a hot water heater. That's right.
It is a water heater.
It is just a water heater. She says
it's a water heater.
She says she asked Hank to go out and check on it. He does, and when he looks at the obviously propane water heater, he kind of freaks out. You hear this ominous music. She comes in and says, "So is it lit?" He says, "Oh, well, getting there." He's got the matches in his hands. She just says,
he's too scared to even light the damn thing.
"Oh man, he can't even do it."
He's shaking like a leaf.
She says, "Oh, for heaven's sake, Hank, I'll do it myself." And he literally tackles her before she can light the pilot light.
He's that scared he can't even let her light the pilot light. Yeah,
she says, "Hank, what is wrong with you? You won't go to work. You declined an opportunity to grill. And now this. You're acting like you're afraid of propane." She looks at him, and she realizes, oh, my God.
Yeah.
This
is where she realized that he's scared, yeah.
Yep. So next thing we see, we are at a strip mall. There seems to be a lot of strip malls in Arlen. I don't know if they're the same one every time, but, you know, it looks a lot like the one that had the comedy club in it. What was the comedy club called? Something with a Z. Balls. Zingers. Something. I don't know.
Zingers.
I don't remember. Artie, tell us what it was called.
Zigzags.
So the strip mall sign this time says Sewing Notions, Dentistry, Pizza, Grief Counseling Center. So all of those things are in a strip mall. I always, so like I went to a concert last night.
Okay, which one?
In Austin. Went to see Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Okay, Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, the best cover band in the world. The place that we went to is across from a strip mall, right?
Strip club or strip mall?
Strip mall.
Strip mall. Okay.
And what I always think about these strip malls is it's almost like there's no zoning in a strip mall, you know? It's like when you drive around in Belmead or in other areas where you see a business, trailer, house, business, trailer, house, mud pit, whatever, right? There's no real zoning.
There's real no zoning or anything like that.
But I feel that way about strip malls because it's like nail place, burger place. You know, it's just so random, the different places that are in the strip mall. But anyway, Sewing Notions, Dentistry, Pizza, and Grief Counseling. We are in the grief counseling office, obviously. The man says, "Welcome to the Survivors of Propane Explosion Support Group." It's a very specific support group.
Very specific support group.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, yeah.
He says, "Let's start with Chuck." He steps out of the way, and we see Chuck Mangione sitting there at the Grief Counseling Center. He's holding his flugelhorn, and he says, "Ever since that explosion, every song I play sounds like Feels So Good." The guy says, "Maybe that's because it does feel so good to be alive." He goes, "No, that's not it." He turns to Hank and he says, "Mr. Hill, tell us how you're dealing with your grief." Hank says, "Nothing much to talk about. I was in a propane explosion. Now I'm afraid of propane." Next person. Peggy says, Peggy, who is really worried at this point, asks,
she's super worried.
Well, she says, "Do you think you need shock treatment?"
Yeah.
The guy says, "Well, perhaps. Sounds to me like what you're really afraid of is your own death." I want to point out that there are some posters in the background, and we see the classic cat hanging from a tree branch or a laundry line that says "Hang in there." We see a poster that says "I hear you." There's another poster on the wall. It's just a sunset. Couldn't tell what it said.
Yeah, this guy doesn't have a voice actor listed either.
Really?
What is his name?
I don't know what his name is. He's just
It
the
doesn't
grief
have- it
counselor
doesn't-
guy.
It just says grief counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't show. At least here on, the source that I use, it doesn't show the voice actor's name for that. Mike, I'm gonna have to contact that college that has all that stuff, and we're gonna have to go down there one weekend.
Yeah, let's do it.
We got to get that done. I think that would be great. I think that'd be really good.
It would be
I don't know
great.
what kind of access we can get, but
Texas State?
you think they would give us?
Isn't that who it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know what kind of accesses they're affording people to go see all
I
that
don't
stuff. I
know.
know they have an exhibit you can go see, but I think if we,
Let's go break in.
We're a King of the Hill podcast. Let us in the door. We might get a little.
Do you
maybe a
wanna-
little? And well, you're an educator too, so
Do you want to break in? I mean, I'm wearing a wire for unrelated reasons. But can you tell me whether you'd like to break in?
Do I want to
or not?
break in? Is it going to be like? Do we need to call Nicolas Cage up to help us design?
Let's do it. Yeah,
The break
yeah.
in here is going to be like stealing the
gonna be
Declaration
wonderful,
of
yeah.
Independence.
So Hank, the guy says that he's afraid of his own death. Hank's like, "What? Nobody's afraid of death. That's crazy. I'm afraid of propane." Guy says, "You're transferring, Mr. Hill. Doesn't it scare you, the thought of missing all your family's special moments?" "No." "Never again sipping wine with your friends, scratching your cat or cats?" "No." "Making love to your partner?" Hank just jumps up and says, "No, no, no." And then you hear this hissing. And the guy says, "Mr. Hill, only when you deal with the fear of death will you be able to overcome your fear of propane." Hank says, "Stop it. Can't you
Stop.
hear the hissing? It's propane. This
It's
room's going to blow."
propane.
And he runs out. And then we see Chuck Mangione over there emptying out his spit valve.
Yep.
So that's what the
And
whole
blowing the
sound
spit out,
was.
yeah.
That was the spit valve. We're back in the Hills living room. Peggy says, "Here." She hands a book to Hank. He says, "What's this?" She says, "It's my scrapbook." She says, "This is the way that rational people deal with it, Hank, by clipping articles out about grisly accidents from the local newspapers. It's also my hobby."
It's also my hobby.
What a weird-ass hobby,
That's
right?
a weird-ass hobby.
Hank starts looking through it, and he's like, "Good Lord, Peggy, what?" And
I think it's almost as weird as like some people's obsession with reading the obituaries every
yeah,
day.
I don't understand that either. I don't want to read the obituaries.
Well, my dad always tells me, "Well, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not in them," and I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
you're sitting there reading them. Why would you be in them?"
Sure. Well,
And
it's a good
then
joke. Everybody.
It is.
tells
It is a joke.
The first picture
It
is
just missed me the first time I ever heard it, and I just can't. I can't tolerate that joke anymore.
the first picture is a car wrapped around a telephone pole. And it says "Jaws of life become jaws of death," which I don't understand how that happened.
It says like a movie. It says like a movie like punchline. The jaws of life become the jaws of death.
This time it's personal. The second picture he turns to, it's an ambulance. Some EMTs putting somebody in the ambulance. It says "dragged 300 feet." Then it's just kind of a compilation of him looking through the book. The next one he sees is the Leonard Skinner plane crash.
Yeah.
And then we see a chess club massacre. It's got a picture of these people that were in a chess club, and it says that they beat this certain group. And Peggy says they beat the Aggies, but they couldn't beat that train, which is kind of fantastic.
It is pretty good.
So we're back out in the alleyway. Hank is finally kind of coming to terms with this stuff.
Yeah, I think he's getting a little better.
He asks the guys, he says, "Y'all ever think about death?" And Bill says, "Well, yeah, I think about it, Hank. I'm an army barber. I get up every day and stare death in the back of the head," which is a wonderful joke.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Dale
There's
says,
not very many jokes in this episode, but the ones that are there are amazing.
Dale says, "I'm not going to die. Chromium picolonate every orifice every day." And then all three of the guys just move away from him, which is fantastic.
Yeah, he's the one that I'd be worried about being radioactive or something like while he's sitting next to you.
Con sticks his head out of the fence and says, "Hey, Hank, let me give you a piece of advice. You need to relax and enjoy life. I got this story about a tiger. Knock your socks off."
I already heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, "I already heard that joke, Con." Bill says, "Ha, strawberry." Then he brings up, this is where it gets dark with these guys, right?
Yep.
He says, "Hank, you ever thought about who'll take care of Bobby when you're gone? Because I'd like to throw my hat in the ring. I'd take him to baseball games, and me and Peggy could sit up in bed at night picking out colleges."
He was pissed. Yeah, he didn't really
Hank
like
says,
that.
"Peggy would not be included in any guardianship situations." Dale says, "I'll take the boy. The widow Hill is on her own." And then the two shake hands in front of Hank. They've made a deal that Dale is going to take Bobby. Bill will try to get Peggy. And they're shaking hands in front of Hank about it because he's already dead.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't shake hands. Let go of that. I'm not saying Bobby goes to either of you." And then we see Bobby as they're talking, we see Bobby and Connie like peeking up over the fence, over the privacy fence. And then after this, we see them behind the fence, and they're standing on their bicycles. Joseph is over there. He never says anything.
Never says nothing.
But he says, what's going on? I thought he was going to be okay. And then he gets real depressed, right? And Connie, like, puts her arm around him or whatever. We're back at the alleyway, and here comes Boomhauer. Boomhauer on life. He says, man, I tell you what, I ain't got a dang old meaning of life, man. It's like this man be like a butterfly flapping his wings deep down the forest, man. It's going to cause a tree to fall like 5,000 miles away, man.
The butterfly effect, yeah.
Nobody see it. Nobody done nothing that even happened. You know, you have a baby born in this world, ain't got no goddamn friends, no nothing. You going to come in and find out about the old evil, man. Man, see, like you don't even know, man, what's going on. You're born into this world, man. It's like, man, dust in the wind. He gets down, he starts blowing dirt out of his hand.
Man, I'm talking about dang old candle in the wind, man. It don't matter at all.
It all dies.
It's all oldies all the time. Like that dang old, I think therefore you are, man. That's the most you get out of him.
It's wonderful. Hank says, well, that's what we tell ourselves, isn't it, Boomhauer? Like, that's comforting.
We got a compliment from somebody. Who was it? Oh yeah, Bob the Gilder likes he likes both of our impressions of Boomhauer.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah. He likes both of our impressions.
Thanks, Bob the Gilder.
He had posted. If you haven't seen our last episode was our Friday episode, which had a guest, Bob the Gilder. When he did his little self promo for us, that's what he said in his promo. Hey, I like these guys, Boomhauer impressions. Y'all go check them out.
Great.
Yeah, so
Actually,
thanks for the shout out, Gilder.
I think therefore you are, man.
Yeah.
So we are back in the backyard. We're at the grill. Hank is still super sweaty. He's got sweat pouring off of him. His pits are all stained.
Yeah,
and he has a
wild.
very, very long stick that he's trying to light the grill with. He's trying to push that button to ignite, which never worked for me. I don't understand.
Yep, never worked.
And he's trying to poke at it, and then here comes Peggy running up. She says, Hank, I can't find Bobby. Connie says he ran away. He's already beyond the tri-yard area.
The tri-yard area.
And this is where we get our second
yeah, our Bwaaa.
All right, we're going to take another commercial break. Mason Market, and we'll be right back.
La Grunta. Capers. La Grunta. Plush bathrobes and roomy slippers. La Grunta. Capers, a round of golf, La Grunta, a dolphin encounter, La Grunta, deer hunting, La Grunta, shooting fish in a barrel, La Grunta, all located here at Arlen's Luxury Spa and Resort, La Grunta. All dolphin encounters require signed liability waivers. La Grunta.
Okay, coming back from the commercial,
right.
we are back. And now the entire neighborhood is out, because they all know that Bobby's missing.
Yeah, Bobby's out of there. Where's he at?
Yeah. Here comes Hank out. He says, Bobby. And then Peggy comes out and says, here's a fruit pie. You get Lady Bird. I mean, they are on it. You know,
They're
this
on
is,
it.
This is a
especially when you
mission.
start whipping out fruit pies to look for somebody. Yeah, you're
And
definitely about it.
Thus, the fruit pies you brought us.
The fruit pies. That's why I brought fruit pies today,
And
guys, because they used fruit pies to find Bobby. And later on, when Mason goes missing, we're gonna use the scent of fruit pies to find him. We're gonna find the hound dog first.
We got to
though.
get a dog first.
Yeah. If anybody would like to donate a hound dog,
No, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
don't
very
wanna be-
much.
I
If
don't wanna
anybody
be a
wants
part of that
to
either.
donate a hound dog, you contact Rusty.
yeah, please don't.
I don't need any more dogs.
I don't need any dogs.
So they are really frantic. He says, "Come on, smell the pie, girl." Shoves that pie into Lady Bird's face. She takes the scent. He goes, "She's locked on Bobby's scent. Come on, girl!" And they run off. Peggy says, "Hurry, Hank! I hope he finds Bobby before dark."
It reminds me of that Blake Shelton song. Come on, somebody, why don't you run? Lady Bird's itching to have a little fun. You know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, Old Red.
Yeah,
That's a great
sure.
song.
Luann, who is still pissed off, Luann, says, it's hard to feel sorry for that little boy. There are whole villages in Ireland where children are too busy serving are sewing whooshes on tennis shoes to run away. And I'm only assuming she's talking about like child labor sewing up Nikes. Khan has had enough of this. He says, I heard enough from you. The more you hold in, the more you put on strange Sinead O'Connor act. She kind of gasped.
She got called out, yeah. So this is where you get the Sinead O'Connor call.
He says, "Cry river a tear for Buckley. Why not you?" So he's actually pissed off, and I think he truly did like Buckley.
He might have had. There might have been some like secret,
It's weird.
They might have had a friendship that nobody
It's
knew
so
about or something.
weird.
Well, you know what? This is what I think is weird right here. This is a fan theory for me being a fan of the show. I think Buckley supplies Khan with weed.
Oh,
and I think
I can see that.
I think that's where the friendship comes from. Because what middle-aged man is teaming up with a 20-year-old and that weird?
It can't be because
that, you see what I'm saying? It makes sense. It makes sense that the guy doesn't have anybody to get weed from, so he's at the Megalo Mart and happens to smell it on him or something. It's like, hey man, you can get a little dime sack.
He says it's because he pisses off Hank Hill so much. But I think maybe that's just the way it started.
That's the way it started.
Yeah.
I think that
then all of a
Buckley
sudden
was leaving on his bike one day and, hey, you hate him too? Oh yeah, he jackass. You got weed?
All of a sudden,
yeah.
seeds and stems everywhere.
The seeds and stems everywhere.
So Luann storms off. She goes into her room and she's talking to herself. So I'm not crying for Buckley. Big deal. He doesn't deserve it. And then she sees the little birthday card on her mirror that she got from Buckley. And we hear Buckley's angelic voice come in and say, "Hey, so for your birthday, I wanted to get you his earrings you like, but I'm kind of tapped out. So here's some CDs I don't listen to anymore. Later, Buckley."
Later, Buckley.
Later.
Yeah, I'm a
Buckley.
jackass. Here's a couple of CDs I don't listen to anymore. The third one's kind of scratched. Only the first 3 songs work, and then it starts to skip real bad about fourth way into the
He
third
put some
song.
toothpaste on it. It'll work.
It'll work. Flush it in the toilet, but don't let it go down.
Wait, that was a cure?
I don't know. That's something me and my brother thought worked. We'd throw him in the toilet, like flush, and like the clean toilet.
That doesn't do anything. What is he gonna do?
I don't know. It was just we were like 8. I was like,
put
8.
him in the toilet.
I was like 8. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing.
Okay.
I got in trouble
That's
for
great.
it very fast.
Well, you probably should have.
They curbed that really, really quickly. Whatever the hell that was about.
So
But we were convinced that it worked. So
finally, Luann is breaking down. She starts sobbing. She says, "Buckley, my hair. I'm so alone." And then
our PlayStation smelled like piss.
What?
The discs. Our PlayStation smelled like piss.
I thought it was just this random thing. I
no, it's a follow-up to
I couldn't put
yeah.
2 and 2 together. My PlayStation smelled like piss. Okay, well, let me read the rest of this. So she is just slumped. She's slumped in this chair.
Yeah.
And up comes the donkey on one hand, and she says, "Oh, no, you're not," because she's saying she's so alone.
Yeah.
And then up comes Reginald Featherbottom, Sir Reginald Featherbottom, and he says, "You're right as rain. What? It's such a pretty young thing as well." And she says, "But I don't want to look pretty anymore." "Oh, that's just rubbish. Every girl wants to look pretty, right ho? Why don't you try on that lovely wig?" She says, so she tries it on. She goes, "Oh, how do I look?" He goes, "Oh, let's see it off again." So
yeah, let's see it off again.
She's literally telling herself. I mean, she's talking to herself as this dumb penguin. Now we're back at the playground, back at the Rocket where this whole thing started.
Yep.
It's starting to be sundown. The clouds in the sky are all orange, and it's just beautiful. Hank crawls up into the Rocket, and Bobby says, "Dad, how'd you find me?" He says, "Well, I let Ladybird sniff one of your fruit pies, and she took me around the block a few times, and well, then Mr. Krinsky called and said he saw you over here."
Yeah.
Bobby
Dog
said,
didn't even do it.
Bobby says, "Oh, he was probably just looking for his mom." And then we see an old lady just digging through a sandbox, which is just the weirdest thing.
Really weird.
Hank says, "Yeah, so I guess you're up here because the way I've been acting since the explosion." Bobby says, "Well, when that happened, I was afraid you were dead. And today you were talking to your friends about dying. I guess I freaked out." This is really like a super touching moment.
Yeah, it's a
between
really
these
touching
two,
moment.
you
I
know?
like it. Yeah.
Hank says, "Oh, son, you shouldn't be worrying about that stuff. Hopefully it's a long way off. A boy your age ought to be worrying about getting dates, making the team, and, getting dates. And my dying shouldn't be the bottom of the list. You need to relax and enjoy life." And then it just dawns on him. You know, he's like, "Oh, shit, that's what I should be doing." He says, "Hey, did I ever tell you the story about the man and the tiger?" Bobby says, because he had run off at the funeral.
Yeah,
so
he goes to try to tell that. Yeah.
He says, "Well, there was this man. He was being chased by a ferocious tiger. Make that a lion, a Detroit lion, 2 of them. And the man was Cowboy Hall of Famer Roger Staubach. And Bobby says, I know him. He sells life insurance on TV.
Yeah.
Hank comes back and he
now it's J.R. Walker and who's the
Jimmy
other one?
J.J. Walker.
Yeah, and Joe Namath.
Yes.
Those are the two that I've seen.
I don't understand how Joe Namath is still alive.
Yeah, I don't either. Like,
Joe Namath.
He should have been doing ARP commercials like 30 years ago.
Joe Namath is super old.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember Joe Namath? Well, have you ever seen the pictures of Joe Namath selling pantyhose?
I'm not sure I want to.
He used to put on pantyhose, and he would sell them when he was the quarterback for the New York Jets.
And he probably made millions of dollars doing it.
Well, I don't think he made millions. I think he made hundreds of thousands of dollars at that time. But yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever it may be.
Sure.
He made
he says he
literal
sells
fuck ton.
He sells life insurance on TV. He goes, yeah. Well, anyway, the Lions were blitzing, and Roger rolled out of the pocket, running for his life. He headed for the sideline, but these two Lions were closing in on him. Then out of the corner of his eye, he saw a strawberry cup of Gatorade. Well, Roger took a drink of that Gatorade, but I tell you something, son, it was the sweetest sip of Gatorade Roger ever tasted. Bobby says, oh, I get it. It's funny, Dad. Like Bill.
Like Bill, yeah.
So
why do you tell a joke at a funeral?
In comes your theory that he might be Bill's kid.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess that speaks to that theory for sure.
It could speak to that theory.
Speaks to that theory.
He says, oh, I get it, Dad. It's funny. You told it great. I got an even better joke.
And then you know what? That theory could even tie into the parable here. You know, Hank knew that he was never going to have a kid, so he drank the Gatorade, which was the Gatorade would be Bill impregnated his wife so he could have a child.
That is so deep.
It is, isn't it?
That's too
as deep as Bill was and Peggy making Bobby.
Jesus. That's rough.
Mark, yeah, we gotta maybe edit that out and I'll leave it there. Leave that one in
there. So Bobby says he's going to tell a joke because it's even better. And we're seeing the sun go down. It's just beautiful. And Hank and Bobby get real close. And it's just a really touching moment when Bobby says, two Eskimos want to buy a car together, but only one of them knows how to drive. So they take a bus to the car store and they bring their money with them. Oh, wait, did I say they were trading in their dog sled? Hank says no. He goes, good, because that's the punchline.
Yeah, it doesn't ruin the whole joke.
So the money melts because there's a snowball and they get there late and blah, 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 blah. So it's just really a great ending to a very deep episode, to be honest with you. And it comes down to Hank and Bobby sharing some father-son time.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool.
And then you get back and
when the credits start rolling.
Yeah, the credit roll.
We were back at Strickland. And Maria says, Hank, look out, it's going to blow. And we see Hank working on the tank outside. And he says, very funny. Then I guess it's Enrique. He says, hey, Hank, you got a light? He says, that's a real good one for the 15th time. And then out comes Joe Jack. He's got his arm out of his jacket. And he goes, help, honey, my arm's been blown up by propane.
Yeah, I like that one.
He goes, Joe Jack. Seriously, baby, thank you for blowing up the MacMullan Mart. And he goes, I did not blow it up.
Seriously, baby.
That is the end.
I like Joe Jack's voice. They really need to. I think somebody needs to develop this book or just
Joe Jackisms.
Well, no, not Joe Jackisms. We need a King of the Hill novel series read by various characters from the series, but Joe Jack being the main narrator.
He was running from a tiger, honey.
And
then he fell off a cliff, honey.
Yeah. And he liked the strawberry Gatorade, honey.
He liked that strawberry Gatorade.
I think that would be great. I think that would be a great just to have like a series like short books, just like real short, kind of like they did with Stephen King. Man, what was that one that he did? The Green Mile, how he did like 7 or 8 books to tell the whole story of the Green Mile.
Yeah.
They should do that with like
it's a great book.
They should do that with like a King of the Hill. If they ever come out with a King of the Hill movie, they should break it into a series of books and then do that.
I'm going to put out a challenge.
There you go. Put out a challenge.
I'm going to put out a challenge to our fans.
Okay.
This is really to one specific fan. I would love for you to imitate Joe Jack reading a very serious poem.
And I'll challenge you with that.
I'll up your challenge.
You have to pick a Wadsworth Longfellow.
Longfellow poem.
Longfellow poem.
Wow.
Your choice. You have to pick a Longfellow poem, read it in Joe Jack's voice, and we'll put it on air, and I'll give you another shout-out, Chris. That's Christopher that does that for us.
That'd be
Shout out
great,
to him and his
Chris.
daughter for doing
Yeah, man, that's
the few ads that he's
fantastic
done for us.
stuff,
It's been great to have interaction from you guys. So we'll go ahead
It
and
is.
wrap it up and throw that in there. So you can find us on BWAAA KOTH on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That's 3 A's.
3 A's, no waiting.
Also, we're still waiting to hear back to see if we're in the running for Podcast of the Year. If we're not, that's
Podcast
okay.
of the
We'll try again
Year.
next year. But thanks for voting for us, for
We
everybody
don't
that
know
did
yet.
vote for us.
We don't know yet. They're just slow counters.
Well, what I'm hoping this does is bring a little exposure to the podcast
Sure.
locally,
Yeah.
because I don't think that we get as much love as
Nah,
some
we
of the
don't
other
get anything
ones.
locally,
Our numbers
no.
are great, but our numbers
Nothing
aren't
local.
local.
Yeah.
They're not as local as we'd like. But it's okay. I don't really care. I like everybody that listens to our podcast. I'm glad that we have
People here.
anybody that wants to listen to our podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take anybody
So
we can
I'll
get.
take anybody. So
Yeah.
shout out to everybody that's messaged,
But yeah,
emailed.
Having said that, we love the interaction. So
Yeah.
anybody wants to send anything in to us, we will play it for the most part. Anybody wants to send us an email, wants to send us a telegraph.
I
one of
don't
those
have the
dogs
person's
that
name yet.
saves you in the
I'm gonna hold
mountains.
off. I'm gonna hold off on the person's name.
Yeah.
And Chris just messages here. He said he's honored. Well, thanks, Chris. We appreciate
fantastic, Chris.
it. I had messaged him the link to the Twitter space. I don't think he's actively watching.
Yeah, sure.
But I told him thanks for letting us use the voice stuff that he's let us use so far.
yeah, man,
and he said he's honored to be a part of it. So
Such good
we're
stuff.
honored that people really just want to hear us
This is a
talk about some bullshit.
crowdsourced podcast.
It's
you
a
know?
crowdsourced
It's a crowdsourced podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly
Hey,
what it is.
guys, also, if you could, go over to roguemedianetwork.com, check out some of our other shows. One that I would really like for this crowd to get interested in is called Jennifer Love Hewitt, Please Be on Our Show. It has just started, and we are recapping some of Jennifer Love Hewitt's best performances, starting with Ghost Whisperer. It's myself and Allison, and the entire goal of this series.
One of the editors. Allison is one of our editors
Yep.
here at Rogue Media. Phenomenal editor.
And the entire goal of this series and the end of this series will be when, not if, when Jennifer Love Hewitt calls, visits, or emails us.
So there you go. If any of you have any contact information or know where Jennifer Love Hewitt might be on any given Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday, please let us know.
No. That's too much. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But Jennifer Love Hewitt, please be on our show on roguemedianetwork.com. Please check out all the other shows. Waco Awards, we're watching you. We don't understand why you count so slow. But be with us next week, and or actually be with us on Friday. I guess.
Friday,
We
yeah.
got one coming
Friday.
up. And
And then who knows, maybe Wednesday one day too.
Oh, my God, you're going to kill me.
Yeah, no, it'd be all right though.
All right, here we go. We're leaving. We'll see y'all later.
With a Tanya.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.